slides together for this. Don't despair, I won't keep you too long, but I did think it would be nice to do a whirlwind tour, just my thoughts, and I should say these do not represent my employer before I start, okay? my thoughts. One little tiny bit of housekeeping is that you should take your posters before you go. Wasn't that it, Keelin? Yeah, basically they're downstairs and they're on the table, so I don't know what you're going to do to them, but take them. So, as I said, these are the final thoughts, and maybe they're provocative thoughts or provoking thoughts, but what harm? I mean, I think we didn't have much time for discussion, and I acknowledge that. It's always a weighing, between packing as many talks and not disappointing too many people, but then we didn't have great time for discussion. But I'll tell you what thoughts have formed in my head over the past 2 days. And like Tamara said there a while ago, let's focus on the positive first, okay? So emphasizing positive welfare, we saw lots of examples of animals flourishing that brought a warmth to our heart, maybe even a tear to our eye. Flourishing being the definition of the lift cost action on positive welfare. And we saw pigs, and I stole these from all your talks, okay, because I'm sitting in the front row, and I was frantically tweeting also. So you might see a snippet of one of your slides come up. I'll dump them all, you don't have to worry about copyright or anything. So we have the beautiful pigs swimming, the goats joyously bounding around, the cow-calf contact, Jan's lovely talk on the wonderful beauty of animal minds, and the lovely way the pigs responded to the tweets. For me, it was the balloons. I could cry. The balloons were particularly poignant, just the way the pigs look at them. I'm not going to embarrass you. Because against that, then, we see talks about these long stunt-to-stick intervals, about exhaustion in sheep in transit, about cattle traversing the whole of Western Australia, a distance up from Edinburgh to Florence, with no rest and no water. And the cold sow methods talk. And we see this definition that I stole of boredom. I'm convinced that boredom is one of the greatest tortures. If I were to imagine hell, it would be the place where you were continually bored. And pigs and so many of our animals enjoy this. Gabby talked about human bias in the way we treat animals. And Frank talked about how we still have this persistent belief that welfare is health. And these are all barriers that, for those of us long in the tooth, have been battling for decades. And it's I don't want to, and I won't leave here in a pessimistic point, but the great thing about these past few days is that talking to all of my fellow long in the tooth colleagues, we're all unfortunately reaching similar conclusions at the same space and time. And that gives me the confidence to say what I want to say, because I feel we have an evidence base, qualitatively in a way, from all the little interviews and little chats we had socially over the past few days. There's positives, there's lots of improvements in the way we assess welfare, as Tony was telling us the other day, and Emma was talking about the great things that social science can do in terms of bringing marginalised animal voices into the loop. So, we have good tools, labelling, and again, as always, consumer interest in animal welfare, and consumer positivity towards precision dairy livestock. But there is an underlying thread, and Peter voiced it, and a few of us have thought it, and someone mentioned greenwashing. I'm going to say, and Dan knows that I've had these conversations with him. I know there's people out there doing great work on technology, but I worry that in an industry that is so squeezed financially, that there will never really be room, will there ever be room for some of these technologies? And they're great research tools, and no doubt about that. Peter and I have had discussions about the fact that it could further intensify, and Frank, your plenary at WAFL a few years ago also talked about the dangers of these technologies further intensifying animal welfare, or animal production, and exacerbating some of those problems that we talked about a while ago. But and I meant money was on the last slide. Look at this money. 80 million for more welfare. And F's have a project called More Welfare, and we're all going to do more welfare research. And again, I'm not going to diss that. The people in this room, I think are capable of great things, because as welfare scientists, we have to be able to see connections in disparate lines of evidence, because the animal is such a complex being. So we are the very ones that are, the best placed to help get over these problems, I think, and the holistic approach that's needed to get over these problems. You heard my question to Bob this morning, and he's right. Within the current system, yes, policy and knowing how to better incorporate animal welfare is, a great thing. But the industry, I feel, in the intensive industry, and there is great push, for alternative and high welfare systems. But for me, I've been using this slide for many years in my talks, and it just epitomizes to me, how broken the system is. Because you've ever-increasing cost of production, ever volatile or diminishing prices at the farm gate, and in that model, there's very little room for welfare, for the animal, for the human, or for the environment that the farm occupies. And I have to come back, Meta, I don't know if you're still here, and it was last year's EAP where Cecile presented work on the cull sow, which was really impactful for a lot of the audience. I don't know where some of you at it, and it was one of the reasons we wanted her to talk about the forgotten animal, the cull animal. And to be honest with you, no matter what we do, and no matter how much welfare research comes out of that 80 million, we're not going to sort this problem out. They are valueless animals, and I don't know how we improve their welfare as long as they continue to be byproducts of a cheap food commodification policy. And we need transformative change. Peter alluded to it earlier. And it's great, again, that so many people feel the same. Conversations all the past 2 or 3 days have all said, we can't keep just poking sticks at the model that's inherently flawed. And I don't know if there's any room left in that model to give us more, because we've pushed the animals genetically quite hard, and the system itself has survived thus far through increasing economies of scale, but now environmental constraints are hampering the ability for farmers to get much bigger. So where's it going to give? Do you know what I mean? As Tamara talked about, we need a holistic framework. It all comes back really to one welfare for me. The animal has been missing in that, I think, because of the focus, because it hasn't been a pillar of the sustainability, and many other reasons. But it's bottom of the pile, as Peter said also. But I do think we need a transformative change. We need, and I don't know how we get there, but I do think, and I put this picture up because a lot of the young people, well, I work with Keelin and Amy, who are students of ours, and I don't want to be depressed, and I put it up to remind me not to be negative about all the wonderful work that people are doing in welfare research. But all I'm saying is, I would say, be careful that we're not just looking at technical solutions for a broken system, or silver bullet solutions, as all my students hear me always talk about. And I think we as supervisors and older, long in the tooth elders need to be careful that we're not just perpetuating research for the sake of research, for a system that we have to start calling out, I think, as being radically broken. We never got to Ireland, bloody hell. But I want to say a big thank you in the rest of the sides, Mila Buikas, and I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of Irish people say thanks a million, that's how I say, and it comes from the fact that in Irish it's a million thanks. So these are just the thanks I want to say to the EAP, Andrea and Federico, Isabella, Joelle, Carlo and Mike and Federica, all have been amazing. We wouldn't be here only for the EAP, that's for sure. The hotel, yum yum. Joggers who supported Amy and Keelin and I, and Frontiers who also provided some funding. Yeah, some sponsorship funding. The helpers, and I think they should all stand up if they're not already so we can thank them. group, the chairs, the presenters, and of course yourselves. Clap again. I am really blessed to have organised this with two fabulous women who I actually was their PhD supervisor, Keelin who was head of the scientific committee, and Amy Quinn, who are now both colleagues of mine in Teagasc, and we go around talking at pig farmers conferences every year, and I just wanted to acknowledge them both as great colleagues and friends, and very proud that we have actually organised two waffles together. So thank you both. They should stand up as well, because I don't think people have seen much of Amy. Where is she? Where are you, Amy? Hey, stand up! Now, all we need is to put their hands or stand up and volunteer to do this the next time. You can get in touch with any of us or any of the WAFL previous organisers that were pointed out in the early days of the conference, which was only yesterday actually. And I'll finish also with a lovely Irish saying, which is Slán Abhaile. And